Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 80, and for this one, we play another session at my hometown casino. It's called Grayton. It's a special place for me for a lot of different reasons. I'll kind of get into that a little bit at the end of the episode, but for now, let's go ahead and get started. We're playing 2-5, no limit Texas Hold'em. There's no meetup game today, so I'm only out to make money and crush people's souls into tiny pieces. But in like a very polite and respectful way. I'm in for 1,000, I take my seat, and the first hand of the session I pick up pocket jacks in the cutoff. Under the gun limps in, the hijack came back from a break and had to post 7, he checks his option. I raise to 30, the button calls, as does the small blind. Onto the gun, and the hijack call as well. We're going 5 ways to the flop with a hand that can be very difficult to play. The dealer puts out 9-7-5 rainbow, checks to me. There's a coordinated board that could connect with a lot of hands, especially hands that might limp in and just call my initial pre-flop raise. I do have an overpair though, and I won't like many turns, so I bet 85. Wouldn't be too upset to take it down now. In my head, there's roughly a 100% chance that I'm going to get check raised. Seems like my calculations might be just a little off because the button calls and the other players all fold. We're heads up, there's a pretty decent outcome. The turn is an ace. Not worried about it too much since there shouldn't be many aces in my opponent's range. Still, he was the first person to call my flop bet when there were several others involved in the hand, so I'm more concerned he might have outflopped me. For that reason, and to keep the pot reasonably sized, I check. The opponent checks back, feeling good about my hand. The river is another ace. It's a great card. It makes it even less likely the opponent had an ace on the turn. He shouldn't have checked back any hands that were beating us on the previous street, and the river didn't change anything, so I feel comfortable going for value. I bet 160 to try to make it look like I'm buying it. The opponent thinks it over, looks like he wants to call. Eventually, he puts his chips in the middle. I turn over the jacks. They're good. We're off to a great start. 2 minutes into playing, we're up 365. Our hourly for the session is incredible. Next, we're dealt ace-queen offsuit under the gun and open to 15. Middle position player calls, the button then raises to 60, folds back to me. There haven't been many 3-bets in this game. I'm at the very bottom of my under the gun opening range. I don't want to call here and potentially play a big pot 3 ways out of position, and even if I make a pair, not know whether it'll be good. I prefer to call a 3-bet with suited Broadway cards or a pocket pair. I'll have those a decent percentage of the time, along with stronger hands that I can 4-bet with, so here I just fold. The middle position player folds as well, and the button tosses in king-jack offsuit face up. If I knew what he had, obviously I would have called, but all I can do is make the best decisions I know how to with the information I have available at the time. When people show me bluffs, I take a mental note, try not to let it bother me, and make adjustments if necessary. One of those adjustments is to try to get better hands, and that's what I do here. I pick up pocket aces the very next hand in the big blind. Under the gun +2 limps in for 5. Middle position player calls as well. Then the cutoff, who 3-bet me in the last hand, also calls. The action's on me. I raised to 40. Unfortunately, everyone lets their cards go. We don't fully punish the cutoff like he deserves. In this one, we've got ace-king suited in the hijack. Under the gun opens at 20. The player to my right calls. I 3-bet to 80. The cutoff, his name's Kevin. He's a YouTube viewer. He cold calls my 3-bet, leaving himself with 229. The other players fold. Kevin and I are heads up, and the flop comes queen 10-9 with 2 hearts. It's a strange situation to be in. I've got 2 overs and a gut shot straight draw. Normally I'd be happy with that, but I think Kevin's range, once he cold calls a 3-bet, is going to consist of hands like pocket 10s, jacks, and ace-king. It's all hands that'll have us in pretty bad shape or we're chopping with. If Kevin had more money, I'd probably check call or check fold, but since he only has about a pot-sized bet left in his stack, I bet 200. My thinking is that ace-king is going to make up a lot of his range. I should be able to get him off a chop. If he gets it in with something else, I'll never be drawing completely dead. Kevin eventually goes all in for 29 more. I call. He has ace-king of hearts. He's free-rolling me. The turn is the 3 of spades. We just need to fade a heart on the river. Nope. The dealer puts out the 8 of hearts. Kevin makes the ace-high flush and crushes me into tiny pieces, but in like a polite and respectful way.
You're a good guy. I didn't want to get it from you, but I got at least a story to tell.
You do. Cool, man. Thanks for being on the vlog.
Thanks.
It can be tough to win with ace-king, but when you fail, you have to try again. This time I've got ace-king suited on the button. Under the gun opens at 20. Under the gun +1 calls. Under the gun +2 calls as well. I 3-bet to 100. Everyone folds, we take it down. Later on, I'm dealt pocket 5s in the cutoff. We're playing 5-handed. Onto the gun, opens at 15. I call, we're heads up, the flop comes 8-4 deuce with 2 spades. The under the gun player bets 30. I'm not ready to give it up quite yet. I've got second pair, and any ace 3, 6, or 7 will give me a straight draw. Plus, if I drill a 5, that wouldn't be the worst thing either. This flop should also be better for my range as a pre-flop caller rather than the pre-flop raiser's range, since it consists of low cards. I make the call, the turn is a 6, this gives me a double gutter now. The opponent bets 30 again. Feels like a blocker bet. He seems to fear that I could have a 2-pair or better hand and is trying to get to the river cheaply. I try to capitalize on his fear, and I raise to 150. He thinks it over. I prefer a fold, but if I get called, I'll have some outs. The player tosses cards in the muck, we win it. Next we pick up pocket queens in the small blind. We're playing 6-handed. Under the gun +1 opens at 20. The player to his left 3-bets to 60. I've been playing with him all day. I hadn't seen him 3-bet once, so this definitely sets off some alarm bells. I basically have 2 options here, since folding is out of the picture. I can flat and play a big pot out of position, potentially multi-way, or I can cold 4-bet to around 200, and most likely fold if I get 5-bet. Ultimately, I go with option number 1. I call the 60. The initial pre-flop raiser calls for 40 more. 3 of us see the flop. It's king 9-7 with 2 hearts. I check, then both players check behind me. It's possible queens are good here. The turn is a 6. I check, and both players check again. Now I feel very confident that I'm in the lead. If anyone had a king or better, then there would have definitely been some betting going on. The river is the king of hearts, making it even less likely someone's holding a king. The flush draw does get there, but if one of my opponents had 2 hearts, then they would have bet either the flop or the turn. I lead river for 100. Both players fold. We scoop the pot and are up over 300 again on the session. Now we have ace-4 hearts in the cutoff. I open to 15. The button calls, then the small blind calls. We go 3 ways to the flop. It's queen 7-3 with 2 hearts. Small blind checks. I've got the ace-high flush draw with 1 over and a backdoor straight draw. I bet 30. The button folds. The small blind calls. The turn is pretty good. It's the 9 of hearts. The small blind checks. I bet 75. I doubt this player would fold a queen for this amount, and he definitely won't fold a flush. He lets it go though. Later we're dealt jack 9 suited in the big blind. Under the gun opens at 15. I call for 10 more. It's heads up. The flop comes jack 10-9 rainbow. We've got top and bottom. I check. Under the gun bets 35. There are lots of potentially bad cards on the turn, so I want to try to get the money in now. I raise to 200, which covers the opponent. He calls for less. He turns over ace-7 of clubs. He has 1 over and a gut shot straight draw to the low end. We're in marvelous shape. We only need to fade an 8, and the turn is... Are you kidding me? It's the 8 of clubs. The player drills it after getting it in, drawing extremely slim. Poker gods aren't quite that cruel to me though. They put a 7 on the river, and we chop it up. In the last hand we'll go over, I pick up queen jack offsuit in the cutoff. Under the gun limps in. Under the gun +2 calls. The hijack calls. I call, and the big blind checks. We go 5 ways to the flop. It comes 10-8-7 rainbow. The opponent's check to me with 2 overs and a gut shot straight draw. I bet 15. The big blind calls, as does under the gun +2. The other 2 players fold. 3 of us see the turn, and it's the 9 of hearts. We smash it. Both players check. I'm definitely going to bet. It's unlikely I'll be able to get a call from anyone that has worse than 2 pair, so for that reason, I bet 60. It's a little on the larger side. I'm trying to create a big pot in case I'm up against a set or another straight. The big blind folds, but under the gun +2 calls. We're heads up. The river is the 4 of hearts. The backdoor flush draw gets there. It's a little bit scary, but since I have the jack of hearts and the 9 of hearts came on the turn, there aren't many holdings that my opponent could call a flop bet with that contain 2 hearts. The opponent checks. I bet 175, really just targeting lower straights. The player is in agony, then eventually makes the call. I turn over the queen high straight. He seems to only see the jack and almost exposes his cards before realizing that I have the highest straight possible. I imagine that he has the jack high straight. I win a nice pot to end the session on a high note before booking a win and racking up. We are 2 for 2 here at Drayton. Won 665 on the nights. It's kind of a up and down session. Won a decent one in the beginning there with the pocket jacks, and then lost a pretty big one. I doubled up Kevin, who's a YouTube viewer, then kind of built the stack back up. So fun session, and time to go home, get some dinner with the family. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. While I was home for the holidays in Northern California, I ended up playing 4 sessions at Grayton. You guys might have seen the last one in episode 79. That's one of my favorite videos of all time, so please check that out if you haven't yet. You saw this session, and then I played a 3rd session, which I wasn't planning on videoing. I ended up losing 1,400 in that one. It was all basically in one hand. I took some pictures for Instagram and I posted them there, but I'll also post it here, I guess, if you want to see what happened. And then I played a 4th session. I played the biggest game I've ever played. It was 1025 and it turned into 1025.50. That's going to be the next episode that I put out, and I'm super excited to share that with you. So that'll cover all the videos for 2018, and then once that one's out, I'll share with you guys my 2018 stats and some of my goals for 2019. In the beginning of this episode, I mentioned that Grayton's a special casino for me for a lot of different reasons, and I guess maybe most of you guys don't even know this, but I'm a certified public accountant. I have my master's in accounting, and I worked for an accounting firm in Las Vegas. One of our clients was Stations Casinos, which manages Grayton Casino, and they sent me out to Grayton to do some of the audit work out there. I didn't really like accounting and went back to poker as soon as I could. But it was cool to work at that casino. It was great to come home for work and see my family. And also when the fires were going through Northern California about 1.5 years ago, my sister's place burned down and my parents had to evacuate their house. They all went to Grayton Casino during that time. So the fires aren't really something that I talked about too much, but it's definitely something that affected me and my family. If you guys are ever interested in learning more about how that affected us, there's a magazine article that was written about that, and they talked to my dad. He made a lot of jewelry for victims of the fires, and he sells some too. So if you want to check out his jewelry, I'll have links down below in the description box to both the magazine article and his website. Let's see, last thing on the agenda here is there's a meetup game at the Texas Card House in Austin. That's going to be January 22nd and January 23rd. It's Andrew and I's first 2-day meetup game. So we're going to play cash games the first day, and then we're going to play tournaments and low stakes cash the second day. Hope you guys are all doing well. Good luck at the tables. I'll see you guys next time.